there's been moments like when it was only me and Tom left in the band. Well, we got some new members, but we were the only one all the time. That was really heavy pressure. And we were supposed to do a new album, and we had to do like everything. That was a pressure. But these days it's fun and it's no pressure, because I know if I don't come up with stuff, someone else will, and I know that anything that I come up with that I'm satisfied with and the guys are satisfied with, Tom will make an Evergrey song.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound, Telemedia, and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you've been having a killer week so far. I most certainly have been. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to rate it and write a review. Now, why do I want you to do that? Well, you have to imagine that when someone is looking for a brand new podcast to listen to, what do? They scroll down, they look at those ratings, they look at those reviews, and if they are positive and favorable, and they state that I'm an amazing host, I have killer guests, I ask great questions, well, they're most probably going to give that podcast a chance. So by you taking a few minutes to write a review for the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, I would be super grateful. And you may actually be the one that helps sway someone's decision to become a brand new Vox and Hops head, and that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today on the podcast, I am joined by Rik Zander of Evergrey. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops, episode number 350.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I am joined by Rik Zander, the keyboardist of Evergrey. Rik, how you doing?
I'm excellent, really good.
Very cool to hang out with you. It's always a pleasure to connect with musicians from across the globe. Love it to death. Let's jump into the shittiest question that I'm going to ask you today. From then on, it will be much more fun, I promise you. The question that we all like to kick these things off with recently: how have you been coping with the glorious years, plural, of 2020, 2021, and hopefully not the rest of 2022? How have you been dealing with these wonderful times?
Hanging out with the family, writing music, actually feeling a bit less pressure. So in that sense, it's not been too bad, I think. It's been like kind of a nice break, actually.
I completely.
So I'm not. I don't think
understand.
It's not all bad.
There are some silver
linings.
linings. Yeah, there's some silver linings of being forced to slow down, which is something as a musician we're not necessarily granted very often.
No, exactly, and it's you feel a lot of pressure with in the line of work we do with well, you know what I mean. I'm Swedish. I'm English, not my native language. So bear with me when I try to find some words. But
no, you're doing a wonderful job, and editing is a glorious thing.
Thank you. Yeah, but you know what I mean.
I do, and the pressure of continuously putting out albums. Evergrey is a band that puts out consistent music frequently. So I can only imagine the pressure that has to stay relevant, to create more, to be true to yourself. It is a lot of pressure, and being granted 2 years of you don't have
definitely thanks to this situation, we could put out another album this fast. It's definitely because of this situation. Otherwise, we would have been touring and playing more, and maybe a new album in the next year. So it's I think it's kind of thanks to the situation.
Absolutely, because it's like two mindsets as a musician. Either you're writing something, this is how I am at least, or you're preparing for a tour, which is so much work, and I don't think people understand how much work goes into getting ready to go on tour and to play a show properly.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. What beer do you have on your side today that we're going to be sharing virtually, Richard?
Actually, I talked to my good friend from Odd Island Brewing. That I guess you know.
I've had them on the podcast.
Yeah, cool. And I asked Peter Ivers so he suggested I actually got two. So I got this Hazy Dizzie. It's a New England IPA. And I also got Hallon Passion. It's a sour beer.
Amazing.
So I got two of them. Yeah.
I love that. Shout out to Peter. I'm excited for the halo effect. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I can't wait to come back to Norway to come hang out at Odd Island Brewing. I can't wait to go back on tour and to make my way across and hang out there with you, Peter. I have not. No. I've played Gothenburg, but I never made my way to the brewery, sadly.
All right.
I went and drank beer in a bar instead. But on my side, I'm going to be drinking something special, something that I just put together myself. I was one of the presenting sponsors of Devastation on the Nation. This year, it features Rotting Christ, Borknagar, Abigail Williams, Vale of Panath, Ghost Bath, Storm Ruler, and another band. I apologize. I created beers in as many cities as I could for the show, and the beers were available at the shows or there was after party. So this is from Ghost Town Brewing. It's also a hazy IPA, 6.66%. Of course, it has to be as metal as possible. Ghost Town rules. Shout out to the crew there. Let's dance into beer. Do you remember the very first beer that you drank, Rik?
Yeah, I do. Well, maybe not the first beer, but I remember the first time I got my first. How do you say when you get drunk?
You remember your first real party?
Yeah, exactly. But I get a notice that my connection is a little bit unstable. So, but
so far so good. There's like a
slight we
lag,
do it's good. Yeah, actually, my first introduction to the world of alcohol was in 19. I'm pretty old fuck. So it was in 1983, I think.
No, the year I was born, Rik.
Oh, really? Yeah, really. Yeah, I was 13, I think.
Okay.
And there were like a metal on television, and this would never happen. But they showed a metal festival on Swedish television from Germany, and everyone who was in that time know exactly what I mean. And me and my friends, we gathered up in front of the TV, and it was Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Michael Schenker, Quiet Riot, like the top of the line.
Top of the top, yeah.
Yeah, top of the top. And this was my first introduction, and I had bought like 6 bottles of not very strong, but what we have in Sweden, like beer that it's like 3.5 or something, something like that. And
I'm well versed in the Swedish laws of. I've had many Swedes on the podcast, so I've heard all about. What's the name of that store? I never remember the name of the store. You have to go to the special store to get the good stuff.
Yeah, the Systembolaget.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off. But you got your 6. You got your
these
6
beers. Yeah, these beers you can buy in grocery stores. So that's why
the low ABV 3.2, 3.4%.
Yeah, exactly.
So you picked up a 6-pack of that. There was this festival. What happened that night?
Yeah, in front of the TV.
Amazing.
And I mean, it was like a perfect introduction for me because it was. I didn't get too drunk. I just got really good drunk. Yeah, happy. Exactly.
I love it.
and we were sitting and headbanging in front of the TV and
I'm still here. There's no stress.
You still here? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's no stress.
Yeah. This connection thing, and we were like headbanging in front of the TV, and it was like a super night. So maybe it was a bit of too good first time for me, but it was great.
Started at the top. You started at the top, Rik. Are you still friends with the people you were with that night?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sure. Definitely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sweden has such a rich craft beer culture, despite having to go to the special store and keeping the low ABVs available in the grocery stores. Did you ever get into craft beer? Is it something that you enjoy? Obviously, you're friends with Peter from Odd Island, but and you made the right decision to go there today. But are you a craft beer enthusiast? Is basically the question.
Okay. Well, to be honest, not really. I like to drink, but I'm not that. I have to confess, I'm more of a wine drinker, actually. Oh. Yeah.
Which is equally as snobby. I respect the wine world very, very much. I do like the branding. In metal breweries a little bit more.
Should I open? Should I open one?
Yeah. I'm already.
You're already going for it.
I was jamming before this in my bedroom, getting ready for a show that I'm playing next weekend, and I was thirsty, so I opened up the beer before starting with you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This poured out amazing.
I go for the.
Yeah.
I go for the Hazy Dizzie.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, Rik.
It looks like this.
Hell yes.
And it's Peter's favorite right now, he said, so I'll try it.
You tell him I say hi, please. Gorgeous. This Excellent. Is killer. Yeah. So is this one. Ghost Town are from California. Just so damn good. And I'm so stoked that I got to collaborate with them again for the second time. Let's talk about the soundtrack of your youth. When you were growing up in your parents' or guardians' house, what music was playing? When you were not in control of the radio, what music did your parents or guardians listen to?
I don't think they didn't listen to that much music, but I remember we had like a Pat Boone record. You know him?
I heard the by
Boone,
name.
He actually he actually did a metal album. Pat really? Boone Goes Metal. Yeah. You have to check that out. He does Crazy Train.
Okay, Goes Metal.
And Holy Diver. It's such a cult album, so you won't believe it when you hear it. It's amazing. Pat Boone. It's like the old 50s guy, American guy, and he made like metal songs, but in the arrangement with big band arrangements of those songs. Yeah, it's
like
so
a
good.
He's like a crew.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So actually, that was but my father played saxophone, and my mother played some piano. So we had a piano at home, and so I guess that was some reason I picked up keyboards and stuff like that. But we weren't really a musical family, I wouldn't say, like listening anyway. It was first when I had an older brother, and when he started listening to metal music, he started listening to Kiss, obviously, and then at first that was too hard for me.
Okay. Was it the imagery or just the music in general?
I guess both, but it was a bit too hard for me. But hey, I was 7 or something. So, but then when I picked up on that, then he started with like Priest and Accept and stuff like that, and then I was hooked as well. So.
What would have been a band that you introduced to your brother? The passing of the torch, where you become the one influencing your brother, because your brother had influence on you. Was there an album, let's say, that you showed your brother as opposed to him showing you? Was there a band that was like your band that you championed into the household?
Well, I don't know. It's hard. But I remember our crew. Everyone had their favorite band. Like one guy had Deep Purple, one guy had Judas Priest, and I was like, what should I have? And then I saw this this mark of Michael Schenker, and I just something hit me with the image of him, and I started to listen to it. and obviously he's a great musician and it's great music. So the album Assault Attack with Michael Schenker, with Graham Bonnet, that was like a real milestone for me. I was like sitting for hours just on the vinyl, listening to that album over and over again. So that was like when I discovered music, like music
passionately,
yeah,
where
with
you had,
passion,
where you had to listen to it.
It was like my my band. It wasn't, none of my friends were that, of course they liked it, but it was like something I could take to my heart. So and
which
it
is
was
important in a crew.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting how we all, and it's interesting how that happens. We're all a part of something, and we all associate to metal, but everyone can still have their own little favorite one that belongs to them.
Yeah. That was important, I think. Yeah,
I love that.
Absolutely.
Was there ever an album that you brought into the house that was too much for your parents, where you had to listen to with headphones type thing?
I remember when I don't think, the thing is, I had my brother and he was very extreme. And he's still much more extreme than I am. He likes the hardest of the hardest still. But when he came home with punk music, and he told my parents that he wanted to be a punk rocker, and this was like in like 1980 or something. I mean, it just came out.
When it was dirty and
no, you. Yeah.
When it was dirty and wrong, and the Sex Pistols were just destroying everything.
And they said, no, you can't be a punk rocker. Which
made him want to be a punk rocker even more, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So he was for a couple of years, definitely when it was, and it was hard for me to bring something new that my parents hadn't heard before, if you know what I mean, because he had done all the job before me. So they did, when I brought home music they didn't like, it was like, oh well, whatever.
At least you're not a punk.
Yeah. Exactly.
How about shows? Do you remember the first music show you went to go see? Maybe with that crew that you drank those first 6 beers with while watching that show on TV, maybe with your brother. Do you remember the first show you went to go see?
I do. Yeah, I do. Actually, I went to Kiss 1980 with the whole family, actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was 10 years old.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they had still makeup.
Yeah.
And Iron Maiden was opening.
Yeah, there's that little band there.
Yeah. I was 10, my brother was 11. Yeah, and my parents went along. So great parents. Absolutely. But the first show I went with, like the group of friends, was 2 years later. Accept. And I'm raised in a town outside of Stockholm, and we went into Stockholm. And so Accept in like a 1,500 place theater, and amazing. Restless and Wild tour, I think it was. And then after that it was like concerts, like a couple of concerts during the whole 80s, and everyone was coming, and metal became really big.
Just
and
massive. MTV.
Massive. Yeah, and they played ice arenas. Yeah. I mean, after that I saw Accept 4 times in the 80s, and they played like ice hockey stadiums, so it was a really cool time.
Something that I did, and I just realized, and as you were talking about it, I imagine you did it as well, was the first show I saw was at the Spectrum, which doesn't exist in Montreal anymore, but I ended up playing the Spectrum, and when I was playing there, I remembered it was my first show. Did you end up playing that 1,500 cap venue, and did you have
no but I played the ice stadium.
There you go. How cool is that? Did you have that like memory of like, this is where I saw my first show, here I am now?
Yeah, I mean, we opened up for Whitesnake. I mean, Evergrey couldn't sell out a place like that on their own, but we opened up for Whitesnake, and you can believe it how cool that was.
To like go back and whisper in your ear when you went and saw those shows that one day that's going to be you.
I never thought about that would happen. It didn't exist in my mind, I think. Playing those places.
I also know that Swedish people are very humble. I think it's a part of your culture to be very humble. So I don't, are you allowed to have those thoughts, like to aspire to be that big?
It's a good good point you make there. I guess it's easier for North Americans to think that big.
The sky's the limit, right? It's American dream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get that in your veins by just moving to another continent, I guess, or something. No, it's definitely in our culture to be humble.
No bragging. You could have done 1,000 million things, and it's not okay to shout from the rooftops that you've made it. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I love the differences, the subtle differences. I would love to hear about your first show. Do you remember your first time on stage?
My like when I was with Evergrey, or when I was
like you as a young musician, first show, from the bedroom to the jam room and then onto a stage.
Okay. Well, I the first show I'm pretty sure it was in school, like in 3rd grade or something. We had this trio. We were called Pearl, which is fucking genius because it said so on the drum.
Yeah. So already you had a branded kit. It's amazing. And it's easy to remember.
Yeah. So I mean, we've seen our favorite bands with the logos on the bass drum.
That's smart. That's
so
funny.
of course we were called Pearl.
Oh, that's funny. How did that show go? Were you prepped? I know it's so different. Music is such a part of the Swedish culture in North America. It is, but it's not like instigated in schools. There's funding for young bands. There's these jam rooms. I know that from many other interviews that I've done. Yeah. It's amazing. So were you ready for that trio, Pearl's first show?
I was so nervous. I actually remember how nervous I had. Like I thought I had a stomach illness or something because my stomach hurt so bad. But I'm pretty sure it was because I was so nervous. But you're right. We have a lot of advantages in Sweden with places to practice. We now not so much, but when I grew up, we had like this community school, music school that every kid that wanted could learn an instrument.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. So and I think that's the main reason why Sweden has small population with so many bands, because we have the opportunity to practice and find places to practice, and
and the scene too. And I have it because I'm from Montreal. There's so many bands from Montreal, especially like in extreme metal. Voivod, Cataclysm, Gorguts, Cryptopsy. Before I was in Cryptopsy, Despised Icon, Beneath the Massacre, Beyond Create. It's the list can just keep going on and on. So me being a young musician, it seemed obtainable, which falls back to that American dream thing that I could make it. I guess in Sweden, that's not so much the case, because there's a lot of bands that come from Sweden, but did it seem obtainable to become at their level?
No, I didn't get the last part. Is the connection here?
Sorry. Here in Montreal, there's a lot of bands. I would go to my practice room. I would see Cryptopsy walk around. I would see Cataclysm. I know it's sort of the same thing in Sweden because there's so many artists and the scene is so close. It's seen obtainable to become a professional band when you were younger.
Yeah, but exactly. But I think that's what you need. You need something to look up to, and like you say, in Montreal, you have all these type of music, the same thing in Sweden and everywhere. It's like when Sweden had like I'm getting away from the subject, when we had like best like 10 tennis players in the top 20 list, you know, because one started and then people realize this is something
we don't have to play hockey.
I can do as well.
We don't have to play hockey. I could play tennis instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't like the cold.
Yeah. Yeah, Montreal. I'm actually a Montreal Canadiens fan.
Oh, me too. Me too. Before the podcast, I watched every episode. Before the podcast, I watched every game. But now I don't have as much time to watch the Canadiens. But I am a big fan. I like any sport where I can sit there and drink beer while watching it. Hockey's a good one. Amazing.
Yeah, we had we had back when I was a kid, we had from my favorite Swedish team. He came to Montreal Canadiens. He was named Mats Näslund, and he was like a big star in the Montreal Canadiens at that time, together with Guy Lafleur, who passed away recently.
Just recently.
So, yeah.
And I just drove through his hometown last weekend. Actually, there's a big statue of him, and it was covered in flowers.
Really? But anyway, it's good to have role models. Then you can accomplish a lot of things, I guess, and you really need that.
I think it's important.
Yeah,
I had asked the same question to Duncan. He's from an extreme vocalist from South Africa, and the band is doing very well from Valdivia. And I was wondering how many more bands from South Africa are now going to make it, basically because they saw this possibility.
Exactly, probably a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Let's talk about the new album, A Heartless Portrait. The Orphean Testament came out May 20th via Napalm Records. You mentioned it early on about it's part of the silver lining of the pandemic for you, the fact that you guys got to drop 2 albums basically almost during a pandemic. You did the opposite of what my band did. We slowed down, you guys revved up and just plowed through recording and writing and recording a second album instead of touring it. Talk to me about that mindset. Is it something that you guys like to do? Is it something that happens, just we're going to make music together? Cryptopsy, it's fun to write, but it's torturous. Is it a pleasure to write for Evergrey, or is it more work?
I think when we set our mind to do something, we really have to set our mind to, now we're going to do an album. Then it's good fun, I think. And it's not that much pressure these days because everyone in the band writes. So we have like.
But was there a moment where it was one person?
Maybe not one person, but there's been moments like when it was only me and Tom left in the band. We got some new members, but we were the only one all the time.
That's a heavy pressure.
That was really heavy pressure. And we were supposed to do a new album, and we had to do like everything. That was a pressure. But these days it's fun and it's no pressure, because I know if I don't come up with stuff, someone else will, and I know that anything that I come up with that I'm satisfied with and the guys are satisfied with, Tom will make an Evergrey song of it because of his vocals, and that's what
ties it all together.
Ties it together, exactly.
Interesting. So Tom's sort of got like the vision of what Evergrey is.
Definitely, yeah.
The umbrella of what can encompass Evergrey. Definitely. Interesting. Yeah, and is there ever a moment where it falls outside of the umbrella and he's like, this is not going to work for Evergrey?
Yeah, it is.
Is that a frustrating moment, or is it a respectful moment and you respect the brand? Well, you understand brand because you had a band called Pearl.
It's no, it's not. It's not. It's no, I wouldn't. It's not a problem at all. I mean, we got everyone in the band's got start other musical projects as well. It's no big deal. I think it's a good. I think we have a really good way to work these days.
And how quickly into the pandemic did you realize that you're not going to play shows? You're going to focus on another album. Like the other album just basically came out, and here you are dropping another one. And a lot of work goes into making an album. I know that. So how quickly into the pandemic is basically the question. Did you guys realize you were going to just make another album? Pretty
quick. I guess we had a European tour booked that was cancelled, and we had a new record label, and of course they wanted to have Evergrey album out as fast possible, and we really didn't have anything to do, so we said let's
why not be creative instead of drink?
Definitely
and hide inside. Although Sweden was pretty open throughout everything, even early on in the pandemic versus Canada, let's say. Back in 2016, you dropped a solo record, I Can Do Without God.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why? Maybe you did. Why did you not write a new record for yourself throughout this time?
Because this solo album I did, it was like a long dream to do a solo album, and the material was like music from a long time back,
just like songs that have gathered over years.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt kind of, it was like if I would never, I thought it was good songs or good ideas in a way, and I thought it was like if I never release this, I will regret it.
Oh no, I understand that.
Yeah. So it was more like a compilation of, and I mean, most of the songs I wrote before I even joined Evergrey, so that's a bit why it's not close to Evergrey or metal or. Anyway, so it was really music I just wanted to complete so I could move on. It was more like that.
You had to get it out of you.
Yeah, so I could do new stuff.
Interesting. It's funny because it is a weight to music inside of us.
Yeah, and I felt so many times. I felt, oh fuck, I just should forget about this music and just move on, but it's still, I never put it out. It's still in my head, and I never know what would have been. So it was kind of like that. If I make myself any clearer.
No, I understand completely. Yeah. Back to Evergrey, you guys strive not to repeat yourselves. You want to please yourselves while remaining Evergrey. That's difficult because you have a lot of material to get out there. So luckily you mentioned that a lot of people are involved in the writing process now. But how hard is it to come up with new stuff when it doesn't? There's only so many notes. There's only so many arrangements. How to be creative and original? What is what are the challenges with that?
Like I said before, I think we have to set our mind into focusing on a result that we have to. Now we're going to do an album, and when we decide that, when I sit in front of the piano, things come up, and if we don't have, like, not planning on doing an album, the ideas won't come up. So it's kind of simple, actually.
Is that like
I don't know how that works, but it's like we have to just set our mind for a new album, and then the music will appear. So Sounds easy, but I think it's a bit like that actually.
It's like you flip a switch and you're like open to creativity versus
I think so. Yeah,
training
I think so.
to tour.
I also think it's if I get more philosophical, I also think when you sit and try to compose and there's nothing there that you're gonna do it for, it's like pointless. It's like why I'm doing this, But
really?
in the case when there's a new album ahead, there's something, this piece of music I write now is gonna end up somewhere. It gets easier. I think it's like that for us anyway.
Do you play just for fun ever? Just to sit down and just play piano?
Definitely.
Is that something that you do? You play
totally.
stuff for yourself?
I do. Yeah, I can sit down and get into, and that's when it's the most fun. But usually nothing comes out of it. It's just like, I mean, I don't do drugs and stuff like that. But it's like getting into
the euphoria.
Yeah, definitely.
Getting
sometimes
lost.
Sometimes maybe something, but I definitely play just for fun. At least I can only speak for myself, but I know other people in the band maybe are more aggressive for the result, but I can just sit and jam for an hour and just think I'm having a great life.
Keyboards and metal, spicy question. Obviously you think that there should be keyboards and metal. Some people don't. How do you feel about that? There was always keyboards for you. You always were on the piano. Talk to me about keyboards and metal and the importance of John Lord from Deep Purple and his effect. I doubt he understood the effect he'd have on metal and extreme music with keyboards being involved. So talk to me about your opinion on that. Obviously you like it, but
well, I like it because I play it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I think keyboard fits in all kinds of metal music. Definitely not. And I mean, I grew up with the 80s metal before keyboard. I mean, I was when Judas Priest and Iron Maiden started using keyboard, I didn't like that at all. I liked the 1984 Van Halen album. I like that. I think they did it, but I didn't like keyboards in everything. So I mean, I liked hard rock and metal, and keyboard was, to be frank, I knew how to play piano because we always had a piano. And that was the instrument I learned. I never learned how to play guitar. And when they were opening a job for keyboard, didn't happen that often. But when it did, the late 80s was superb. Then when everyone wanted keyboard.
The age of the synthesizer.
Yeah.
Really
and,
in there.
Yeah. But I truly can appreciate bands that are against keyboards, that are really conservative about that. I think that's super in some cases. But I was really blessed when I got the question from Evergrey, because when I hadn't heard Evergrey before, but when I listened to their music and all that, they have they love keyboards. So that was amazing for me, obviously, to be a keyboarder, to join that band.
Now that's something that we do have in common. That's something that we do have in common. Sorry.
I can tell when I was in the 80s, when I started to play keyboards, I mostly did like intros for death metal bands and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like really scary keyboard intros. But then I was out, of course.
Well, they could look really tough, yeah. And then grunge came in and pushed that away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest Cryptopsy fan when I first joined the band. I've become a big fan, obviously, but talk to me about joining a band and getting that. Did you apply to the band, or did they hunt you out?
No, I was a mutual friend called me one day. Well, the story was, this friend, I'm not from Gothenburg. I'm from outside of Stockholm, Uppsala.
Mm-hmm.
But then I moved to Gothenburg for other reasons. And this friend from Uppsala, he one day he said, I'm gonna come down to Gothenburg and go to a release party with this band called Evergrey that I know the guys from. You want to join? Yeah, sure, why not? So I went to that release party and saw Evergrey, and I thought, it was pretty cool. Yeah, good music.
I could be a better keyboardist though.
Well, actually, yeah, that crossed my mind. Anyway, then like half a year later, this same friend called me and said, "Hey, you remember the band we went to see?" Yeah, of course. They're looking for a keyboard player. Can I give them your number? Yeah, sure. And I already heard them one time, so yeah, sure, go ahead. And yeah, then
boom. And then boom.
Yeah, boom. Yeah, boom. Yeah. And this was 20 years ago. So.
Love it. I love making beer collabs. I like making things with my logo on it. I like things that like mean things to me. Beer is a big thing for me. I also have a tea for Cryptopsy. I've done a bunch of things like that. I love making collabs. If you can make a collab for yourself, a beer collab would be interesting with Odd Island, let's say. What style of beer would it be? What would you call it? Or if you don't want to make a beer, the question is open to something that you would want to make.
Oh, damn! That was really hard. I've never even crossed my mind that type of question. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I don't
no stress. Know. Let's simplify it. If you can, Evergrey has never made a beer?
No, no, we haven't. I don't know if we have made.
Or a wine. You like wine, you said. What if we made?
Yeah,
an
I do.
Wine?
Yeah, I like wine. Yeah.
What would be the perfect Evergrey wine?
Yeah, that's. Oh, you really put me on the
spot. I've stumped Rik.
Yeah, it's you see, I'm a guy that have to have to think about stuff. Yeah,
you can send the answer.
Yeah, yeah. I have to really consider this.
I have one last question.
I don't have an idea.
One last question, classic Vox and Hops wrap-up question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you seem to be very in control and, writing music, playing piano for fun. But every once in a while, when you make a bad decision and you open up that extra bottle of wine that you've been keeping in the back of your cellar just for the perfect moment, everyone, it happens to everyone. What is your hangover cure? When you drink too much and you wake up the next day and you don't feel well, what do you do?
Keep drinking.
Classic.
If you don't get sober, you don't get a hangover.
Rik, thank you so much for taking the time, hanging out with me, talking about your life, talking about music, talking about craft beer. I had a blast. Everyone, get ready. A Heartless Portrait of the Orphean Testament dropped May 20th via Napalm Records. Check it out. It's a banger. I love it, and you're gonna like it too. Rik, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, was this ever a killer conversation. I had such a blast connecting with Rik. He was so down to earth and open about everything, and I love having conversations with people like that. Massive cheers to you, Rik. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can get it on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive 2 emails a month, which will contain all of the details of everything that has happened recently in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You'll get to see which episodes I've dropped recently. You'll get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will get to see which albums the Vox and Hops album review crew have reviewed recently. And you'll get to see which albums Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself, has put on the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is available on both Apple Music and Spotify. There is just so much going on in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. I'd hate for you to miss a single thing, so sign up to the mailing list. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer weekend. I will be back next week with yet again 2 episodes, one on Tuesday and another on Friday. But until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.